You're live.
What's up? What's up? Nick White, Off Leash Canine Training, live and uncensored with Nick White every Wednesday at 9. We are live. So as always, we're going to take a few minutes. So in the meantime, won't everyone comment below and let us know where throughout the world you are watching from. James says he is coming from Australia. That's awesome, James. Australia is on my to-do list. I've done private seminars in Hong Kong and Dubai and Brussels, kind of all around at this point. London, but Australia is one I have on my list. I want to come visit Australia and train some dogs there. Good evening, Pat McCormick. Always happy to have you. Washington State, what's up, what's up? James says you and Tank are coming out to Australia. Would love to. Like I said, hopefully in the next 12 months I can get out there to Australia. Chrissy, Buffalo, New York. Welcome, Chrissy. We actually have a location opening in Buffalo in the next 30 to 60 days. Jenny from Stafford. Welcome. I did. What's up, Kelsey? Denise from Phoenix. Off Leash Canine Phoenix is hiring. Hit up Denise, email phoenix@offleashcaninetraining.com. If you know someone in the area, they are looking for another trainer in Phoenix. Connecticut, Woodbridge. What's up, Gail? As always, we have the legendary Tank Mosley behind the screen reading your comments once we get this show started. Hello, Nancy from Oakton. I will be eating a sweet tart, soft and chewy rope. These things are amazing if you've never had them. Lori Hicks. What's up, Lori?
Jen from Jacksonville just opened that location.
Jen from Jacksonville, Florida. We have a new location down in Jacksonville, Florida as well. Check them out if you're in the area. Hartwood, Virginia. Again, we'll probably give it like another minute or two, and then we'll start going. Think of some questions you have, and the wonderful Tank Mosley will be moderating, reading them to me, so I don't have to keep looking at the screen like I am doing now. Bethany says, hey y'all from Alabama. What's up, Bethany? Kayla from the swamp. What? Chrissy, just talked to your Ashburn, and we are getting our second dog trained. That's awesome, Chrissy. Amanda, Falls Church. Molly did classes with St. Cloud, Minnesota. Michael Burns is in the house. Michael Burns is opening Providence, Rhode Island this month. So if you guys know anyone who's in Providence, Rhode Island, check him and his wonderful team out there. Sydney, Montreal, Canada. Lake Charles, Louisiana. Kyle. Donna says, where's your Indiana location? We are in Indianapolis, Indiana. However, probably in the next 3 to 6 months, you will see a Fort Wayne, Indiana location coming your way. Devin, getting the dog pack in the mail today. Congrats, Devin. Being the winner of the OLK9 dog pack. It's a monthly subscription we do where we send you awesome stuff, not the cheap stuff like some of the other places, but trainer tested and approved. Really cool stuff in there. All right. Joe Zitzelberger, the infamous legend himself, Joe Zitzelberger. Joe is opening off-leash canine training Pensacola. That's coming up this month. Pensacola, Florida, the Emerald Coast. So if you guys know anyone in that area, check them out. That will be coming in the next 30 to 60 days. And on top of that, to add to that, Pensacola is our official 101st location. How incredible is that? The big 101, 101 locations, 100 in the US, 1 in London, UK. So Pensacola, Florida is 101 locations.
What's our topics for tonight?
Joe says if you live in Pensacola or you want to move to Pensacola and run the Pensacola location, email pensacola@offleashcaninetraining.com if you know someone in the area or you want to move to that area. So we're going to get the ball rolling. Have your questions, and you guys better have amazing questions. And the reason is, my first topic of the day. Whoever has the best question that Tank and I deem the best question of the night will receive a free, brand new, never seen before officially licensed off-leash canine training place cot. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The officially licensed OLK9 place cot. This isn't one of those cheap ones. This one is made right here in the great US of A. It's durable as shit. Can stand up to just about any dog you can put on it. Trust us, we know. So again, whoever we think has the best question of the night, I'm going to ship you one of these bad boys at no expense whatsoever. And you're going to be one of the first, literally one of the first, to receive one of these because none of my trainers even have them. I'm the only one in the world right now that has the official off-leash canine training place cot. So it's going to be me and the winner is going to be the only two people that's going to have them right now. This is your large size. And this is your small size right here.
Chrissy says, do those cots come in extra, extra large? It looks like she has a Mastiff.
It can hold extra, extra large for sure. So our small one is a 22 by 22, and our large one is a 40 by 22. Both of them are 5 inches tall. The thing also that I really like about them is they are stackable if you see the holes. So if you have, 2 or 3 or 4 of these, you can stack them. So essentially, you're creating, taller places. So as you guys know, we use place for a lot of shit. It's kind of the staple point of our training. I think I did a Facebook Live video last week or 2 weeks ago, and someone asked me what my favorite command was, and I said outside of come, it's place, because we use it for so much stuff. I mean, we use it for door manners, we use it for distraction work, we use it for extended distance obedience, where you see the dogs downing and sitting from 200-300 yards out. We use it for so much stuff that I couldn't imagine training a dog almost without place. That's how awesome these are. So I hunkered down, and now we have the officially licensed OLK9 place cots.
What kind of schedule does the dog have during the board and train? How long do they work each day? Do they get playtime?
Remind me of that one in a second. So again, best question of the day. I'm going to ship you one. The only 2 people in the world that's going to have them is me and you. And even my trainers, because they don't ship officially until next week. So even my trainers, all my locations who's ordered them, don't get them until next week. But I have 6 of them that were sent to me as samples to approve. So I got 6 in the house, and one's going to go to whoever has the best question of the night. You can also order these online on our website. If you go to offleashcaninetraining.com, click store, you'll see a link to order them directly off of our website. But again, they're not going to actually be shipping if you order it online till about a week and a half from now. So that's another way you can get it. Offleashcaninetraining.com, store page, done. All right. So a couple questions really quick. Some people are asking when are they available. As I just said, you can go to offleashcaninetraining.com. The link should be pinned right there, store page, and done. Again, these are made in the U.S. They're durable. They're clean proof, scratch proof, almost everything proof, and we're really excited to have them. So think of an amazing question, and you could be one of 2 people in the world to currently have one. Let's see what questions we have. So we'll go with our first question.
What kind of schedule does a dog have during the board and train?
So, the question is, what kind of schedule does a dog have in our 2-week board and train? So an average 2-week board and train is generally doing about 4 hours a day. Kind of what an average day looks like is they're an hour on, 3 off, hour on, 3 off, hour on, 3 off, hour on night, repeat for 2 weeks. So that's kind of a general schedule. Obviously, that'll be adapted to that specific dog. Some dogs can't go that long at a time. Some dogs can go longer. Some dogs need more than that. So there's a lot of variables that will kind of change that. But if you were to ask me like a general rough schedule, that's about as close to a rough schedule as you're going to get for a general scenario. So hopefully that answers your question.
And do they get playtime?
Of course they get playtime. If you watch any of our videos, almost all of our videos, you'll see the dogs like playing and running around and screwing off and playing with other dogs, assuming they're good with dogs. So yeah, they definitely, I'm a big advocate of incorporating obedience into play. So a lot of the training is, praise and being played with and fun. So, but outside of that, then yeah, if they're good with dogs, they're also playing with the other dogs and running around and being crazy until it's time to do something again. So.
Jacob says it's my dog's Maverick's birthday today.
Happy birthday, Maverick.
All right. Is it true that if your dog goes through the protection package that they could lose their loving side? I have a Mal.
You have a Mal. I have a Mal too, as do many of my trainers. No, that's not true, actually. My Mal's protection train, I know a lot, countless protection Mals, and it doesn't really change anything about them, to be honest. They'll be kind of how they are now, but doing protection. So if they're a big lover and cuddler and all of that with you now, then that's how they're going to be then as well.
Nick, I like your shirt.
Thank you very much. It's our working canine handler shirt.
Let's see. Place, I just learned place with my golden, but she will stay if I have leash on. But if If leash off, she ignores me. I have been doing for 3 weeks now. She's 6.5 months.
I mean, if you've been doing place for 3.5 weeks, I mean, she should literally be the best dog in the world at place. I'm not sure. I mean, generally at the end of a 1 hour place lesson, we are placing the dogs and, you know, walking out the door, you know, walking down the street, running around, like doing, and that's at the end of an hour. So if you've been doing it for 3.5 weeks, I don't know if you've been doing it with us or not, but if you have, it sounds like there's an owner error somewhere in there. Because yeah, I mean, place is to me is one of the most simple commands for a dog to comprehend. It's easier than heel, it's easier than come, it's easier than down. So it's generally a pretty simple command. So if you are doing it with one of our locations, I would say get with them and find out what you're doing wrong.
Ashley says she just got an 8-week-old German Shepherd, signed up for Las Vegas off-leash, and she starts in March.
Awesome. You are with the legendary Willie Harrell out in Las Vegas. Great guy, great trainer, great background, did a lot of detection dogs and stuff with the Marine Corps, so you are in good hands. Crystal Winery says, I thought I'd share a pic of my niece who is 1 week today. I know she's 1 week today because I remember last Facebook Live video you said you were watching while she was being born. So congratulations, Crystal, and she looks adorable.
We've got some good questions coming in.
Uh-oh, good questions. Sounds like everyone's trying to win the off-leash canine place cot.
On the subject of duration down, what's a good duration to start with, and what should you do to reinforce the down when a distraction occurs?
So that is a good question. It's kind of a multi-part answer. So the question is, what's a good duration? Do a duration down. How do you deal with distractions? So first, you got to do incremental training. Essentially, you know, a lot of people will say like, oh, I tried to leave my dog in a down for 30 minutes while we ate, but he kept getting up. But they went from leaving the dog there for like a minute, and now all of a sudden one day they're like, oh, let's try doing it through whole dinner, and it doesn't work like that. Like you have to do micro-incremental training. You have to do small increments to build up their tolerance, build up the training, just like you would a person. You know, the analogy I use is you don't say, I've ran 1 mile every day for the last week, and man, that 27 miles today really kicked my ass. So just like a marathon sprinter or any of these other people or fighters, you know, 3 5-minute rounds, 4 5-minute rounds, you micro increment the training. So same with your dog. So you start off, when we start off with duration work, what it looks like is down, break. That's how it starts. So we give the command, they do it, we instantly release. Once they're doing great at that, then we'll leave them there a few seconds, break. Then we'll leave them there 30 seconds. Then we'll leave them there a minute, then 2 minutes, and 3 minutes. And we just keep stretching it out until you get how you see in some of our videos where we put the dog in a down and eat and vacuum, and it's like 30 minutes later, they're still there, how you see outside of Target or at Starbucks, all the things you see in our videos doing duration work, that's how we do it. We don't get the dog like, oh, he knows down, now let's take him to Starbucks and leave him there for 40 minutes and see how he does. It's built in, the endurance is built in training, so we do it in increments. So hopefully, I think that should answer your first question. You know, if you try to go from 1 minute to 30 minutes, you're setting your dog up for failure, which in turn means you're setting yourself up for failure. And then the second question was, the second part to that, about distraction work, how to deal with distraction work. It's very simple. I mean, here's where I think most trainers and most owners mess up, is they try to move on to distraction work before the dog's really, really solid with no distractions. So, you know, before I move on to distraction work with the dog, that means he's pretty much flawless. Like, when it's just me and him, I'm trying to get him to mess up, meaning I'm downing him, I'm vacuuming around him, I'm throwing stuff over his head, I'm running around in circles, I'm yelling out random stuff, I'm walking 100 yards away, and he's still not messing up. That's when I start moving on to distraction work, and then I slowly introduce it. Like, all right, let's bring your dog out, Tank. My dog gets up, nope, place. All right, bring him out again. He gets up, nope, place, bring him out again. All right, he does perfect. I leave him there for a minute, break. So essentially what he learns is distraction, I leave, put back. Distraction, I leave, put back. Distraction, I stay here, good boy, I get released. And then you just build upon that, just like duration. All right, 2 dogs, 3 dogs, 5 dogs. and then until it looks like how you guys see in our videos, where they're downtown Hollywood Boulevard, downtown Hong Kong, London, Times Square, all the crazy stuff you guys see in our videos on YouTube. All that starts in a very, very, very extremely low distraction environment, and then we build them up to that. I can promise you we don't take the dog from my ranch in Virginia on 16 acres in the middle of nowhere, and then I'm like, all right, he seems good, let's go do a Times Square heel video. So we take them from nothing, add a little bit, add a little bit, add a little bit, until they're doing what you see in all of our videos. Just kind of essentially desensitizing them to it slowly and gradually. So hopefully that answers both your questions.
Speaking of London.
Yes, we do have Off-Leash Canine Training London. That's right, Off-Leash Canine Training London is opening up in May of this year. So check them out. You can find them on Facebook. So we're really excited about that. So if you guys know anyone in London, UK that is, who has or needs an amazingly trained dog, check them out.
James asks, if you get dogs that whine and carry on in the crate, do you prefer people to work with that before getting to you, or do you prefer to handle that yourself?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a both, I would say. I think I've said in here before, anytime it says, what's the best age to start fixing this on my dog, I say yesterday or today. So it's something, that if you can fix it, you might as well fix it now or help getting your dog over it before you wait, 4, 6, 8 weeks for him to come to our training program. The best solution for a dog whining in a crate is never let them out while they're whining or barking in the crate, because then it becomes like a self-rewarding behavior. They learn, I whine, I bark, I carry on, and the crate door magically opens and I get what I want. So the analogy I use is, think of like the kid that throws a fit in the middle of the store, and he's like, I want that toy, and he's kicking and screaming, and you're like, all right, here's the toy, shut up. All you did is reinforce, like, yep, this is why I whine and bark and carry on, because you do what I want. So the best thing to do is reward their silence and let them out based off silence, and never let them out based off the barking and whining and them annoying you, because then, as I always say, if your dog barks and whines for 20 minutes, you're fed up, and you're like, all right, fuck, and you open the door, what'd you teach your dog? Hey, you gotta bark and whine for 20 minutes and the door opens. So that would be my advice on that.
I'm in the front yard and I'd love for my dogs to be out with me, but trained to stay in the yard and not go past the property line. How do you teach that? And if you open up in Buffalo, do trainers come out to my house and teach me?
We are opening in Buffalo. We'll have a location open in Buffalo in the next 30 to 45 days-ish time frame. So we are open in Buffalo, and yes, those trainers will offer in-home training where they'll come to you versus you come to them. And it sounds like you're talking about perimeter training. Essentially, I want my dog to learn the perimeter and not go out into the road, stay in the yard. With our training, you can do that as long as it's supervised. So, I mean, as long as you're in the yard with them, then yeah, you can certainly do that, and they can learn perimeter or boundary training. When I did John Cena's dog, actually, if you watch John Cena's before and after video on our YouTube channel, I kind of do that. You'll see on the sidewalk off-leash heeling with his dog, and I just walk straight into the road, and the dog stops on the sidewalk and doesn't follow me or doesn't stay heeling into the road, because they wanted him to not go into the road without permission. So you'll see that in that video, and all that is perimeter training. However, that's supervised only. If you want that unsupervised, then I would say A, get a fence, or B, get an invisible fence or the underground electric fence. So it depends on what you need it for, essentially.
What's the record for the distance down?
It's like 352 yards, but to clarify, that was in a dog I was only training 5 days, and he also had to learn 8 other commands. It was in a 5-day seminar in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, actually. So it was a dog who knew nothing, and I taught it 9 commands in 5 days, and that was one of them. So it should be pretty easy to beat. If you have a dog more than 5 days, and you don't have to teach it 9 commands in those 5 days off leash.
I know there are a bunch of negative perceptions about the e-collar. How does the e-collar training work in terms of positively reinforcing the dog's behavior? Why do dogs look so happy in the videos if the e-collar has such a bad reputation?
Well, you pointed out the first thing I was going to point out. You stole the words right out of my mouth. If you watch our videos, the dogs look happy, confident, motivated. Because when you do e-collar training, that's how it should properly look, is the dogs look excited and motivated and happy. Because we make it fun for them. You know, people who don't know any better think that e-collar is just like punishing the dog and correcting the dog's behavior, and you know that couldn't be further from the truth. If that was true, none of our dogs would look happy. They would all look miserable. And you know, as I always tell a lot of our clients, is if you watch our before and after videos, a lot of times you'll see the dogs look happier and definitely more confident after than they did before, because we use it to build confidence, and they associate with freedom. Now I can go wherever I want. I get to be off leash. I've never been able to do that for 5 years, and this guy takes me off leash and lets me run and play parks and playgrounds and beaches every day that I've been with him. This is awesome. So it's a lot of positive reinforcement and fun. That's the key, is you got to make it fun for the dog, and that's in any training tool that you're using. Is it has to be fun for the dog.
Sydney says, let's talk about incorporating obedience into play more. What would be typical obedience commands that you throw into playtime, and when, and can you give examples?
Yeah, so one of the most common things we do, Sydney, is recall with play. You'll see that in a lot of our videos. Someone asked earlier about, do the dogs get to play during a board and train? So, and I answered, yeah, they do a lot. So what we do a lot is the dog's just out there playing, they're in the middle of the field, they're running around, chasing each other, and we'll do what we call emergency recalls. So that way the dog learns to like stop mid-play, mid-flight, mid-run, mid-excitement, stop everything they're doing and come flying back. And we use that in a play environment, but as you can imagine, it transfers into a lot of things. It transfers if they're running towards a road and a car starts coming. You know, there's so many practical applications for it, but that's one of the ways we incorporate obedience into play. Another thing's with our extended distance obedience. The dogs are out there, you know, playing, running around, down, and they'll drop instantly, break, and then they jump up and take off playing again. You'll see stuff like that in a lot of our videos. Or even small things, like if your dog's ball motivated or frisbee motivated or anything like that. You know, we'll have the ball, they're super motivated, down, sit, place, heel, break, and then we throw the ball. So those are some of the most common ways that we incorporate obedience into the play versus play into the obedience. And it sounds like semantics to people, because I always say incorporate obedience into the play and not play into the obedience. But to me, I think it's one of those small, big points, is once the dog's good, it's a lot of play, and you throw obedience randomly in there, versus it's a lot of obedience, and then you randomly throw a little bit of play in there. So hopefully that answers your question.
Here's a good one. Our second dog is a rescue and has a bit of anxiety. Do you normally see a difference in anxiety or confidence after your training?
Yeah, as I just said, we actually have a section on our YouTube channel. If you guys go to our YouTube channel, go to our website, offleashcaninetraining.com, click the media page, and then you'll see it'll say check out our 1,700 videos on YouTube. Click there. Click playlists, and what playlist does, it breaks all of our videos down by category. So it'll say Great Dane videos, German Shepherd videos, Rottweiler videos, and then there's one called Aggressive Dog videos. There's one called Confidence Before and After videos, and that's a good one for you to watch. We just posted one yesterday, I think, of our trainer Morgan had a Great Dane, super anxious, nervy, skittish, with not good with men. And you'll see his before and after video. So again, we do a lot, especially with dogs like that, as we go out of our way to do a lot of extra confidence building drills to help with that. And confidence naturally usually helps out with anxiety as well. But anxiety is like aggression, which I always talk about on every live video, is you don't know what degree you can help with that until you actually start working with that dog. Some you can almost completely eliminate it. Some you'll see a little bit of progress in that area, but you just don't know until you start working with that specific dog. You know, as I say, worst case scenario, you'll have an anxious, highly obedient dog, so versus now an anxious, probably not so obedient dog.
When you are out in public, how do you prevent a dog who is off leash from running off when there are so many distractions, especially other dogs?
Yeah, I kind of touched on that a little bit ago about how we prevent a dog from running off, you know, based off the high-level distraction work we do, is just proof them in lower-level environments first. If you have the dog, very, very solid and 100% reliable in lower level distraction environments, they may increase a little, and by the time, I had Ryan Reynolds' 2 dogs, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's dogs. You can see their videos on our website. Do you think I'm going to take Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, who have 40 million followers on social media, to downtown Times Square, where it's just chaos? It was a Saturday too. If I thought there was any inkling whatsoever that they were going to take off in that environment. So where I'm going with that is, if the dog's ready or not. If I didn't feel 150% confident, I would not take anyone to those environments. And there's some dogs that you'll get like that. You'll get dogs who's like, this is a Woodbridge Fredericksburg off-leash dog, but this isn't a Times Square or downtown DC off-leash dog. So you just as the trainer. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Nancy says, still having trouble with door manners. 3 dogs in the house. Only Harper has been through training. Bell rings. I can find 1 dog just to help maintain control. I put Harper in place, but it all goes to hell as soon as the person steps in the house. She goes nuts. Tried putting her on a leash, but she still goes nuts.
Now, it sounds like you just need to reinforce your place command with distractions, which we replicate through training. Again, if you watch John Cena and WWE star Daniel Bryan's before and after video, I place the dog, open the door, walk out the door, leave the door open, drive down the street, drive back, come in the house, and then release the dog. So what you need to do is, and I feel like I talk about this every now and then too, is people when they train for place, you open the door, walk out, break, and that's kind of it. Well, that's not reality. Reality is place, someone's knocking, the doorbell's ringing, other dogs are going crazy, there's chaos, so generally people aren't training their dog for reality or for a realistic situation. So what we would do is, if you're like, I want you to come help me with this, as a trainer would show up, say, place your dog, you place them, they're going to walk out, knock on the door, ring the doorbell, bang, get your dog all worked up and say, all right, put him back, and then we're going to repeat the shit out of that, essentially desensitizing him to that. And also, it doesn't help that the other 2 dogs are being crazy and doing whatever they want. I mean, that really shouldn't matter, so it's not an excuse. I always say, if your dog knows the right thing to do, it's irregardless of what the other dogs do, and you'll see that in a lot of our videos. But it sounds like you just need to do some desensitization and set up some realistic scenarios, maybe a husband or a friend, knock on the door and just practice that routine, a couple times until you have it really solid. So hopefully that helps as well.
Lori says, I watch you guys every week, and I tell everyone I know who owns a dog about you guys. She went through off-leash with the Buells in Greenville, South Carolina. And Lucy's 3rd birthday is February 16th. Can she please have the cot?
Is that a good comment or question?
So far.
It's a direct question, I guess. Happy birthday, and I'm very happy to hear of your experience with the Buells in South Carolina. They are awesome trainers, Chris and Sandy. And Tank and I will decide at the end of this if you can have the off-leash canine training place cot.
So right now we're kind of idle. No questions are coming in, so.
If you say his name, say no, he X-Source. Christy Hernandez says, I work with a super defiant dog at a daycare. He cries when leashed and reprimanded. If you say his name or say no, he acts worse. Running away and rough playing harder. Well, Christy, it sounds like it's not your dog, because you said it's a dog at your daycare. So it sounds like that dog just needs training. I always talk about in these is most problems that we see is literally fixed with our basic obedience program. We get clients literally on a daily basis who tell us how horrible their dog is and how they've had the dog for 7 years and they can't take it anymore and they got to do something, and it's a simple fix that could have been fixed on lesson 2 7 years ago, and then they would love their dog and take it everywhere and think it was awesome, versus saying, I hate this dog, and we need to do some things. He's annoying the shit out of us. So, yeah, I would just say, reach out and have them find a good, solid obedience training program. And it may, a lot of dogs I see too are the way they are, just like kids, because they're over pampered and babied and treated like kids, and they have no rules, no structure, no discipline. And the same thing happens with dogs when you nurture them in that environment that it does with kids. So that could also be another issue.
They get coddled a lot.
Yeah, they get cuddled a lot. As I say, if you treat your dog like a human, don't be mad when he treats you like a dog. So,
Shannon says, my 6-month-old Border Collie mix Magnus has a problem with growling and barking at people while we are in the car. And how can I get him to relax so he doesn't scare us and everyone else?
Same, like I would say obedience training. You can place him, you can down him in the back of the car, he jumps up, correct him back into it. Anytime it comes to issues like that, I feel like a lot of the dog just needs a correction for it. That's just like people. There's all this thing about like positive and treats only, but there's some dogs that when you're trying to treat them, they're just going to eat your face. They just don't care. So dogs like people, some dogs, they just have to have a correction for it. And that can be easily controlled, like again, what I just said, it can be easily controlled through the use of just a basic obedience and a good, solid training program so they learn what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, what gets rewarded, what doesn't get rewarded.
Chrissy says, on the subject of crates, what if your dog is being destructive in the crate to a point where he can hurt himself?
Well, it depends. I don't know what kind of crate you have, but they make like dogs that are like really jacking up their face and stuff because the holes they make, and again, it kind of goes back to what I said, owners don't like them, but it's sometimes the best, is they make like solid, like metal crates that have very small holes at the top, so it's impossible for a dog to hurt themselves on them. And it's funny when you talk to owners, they'll be like, oh, those look so mean. I'm like, what's mean is letting your dog jack up his teeth in his face and get all shredded up. That's way meaner than putting him in a crate where he can't do that. So a lot of the times that's the best option. And it sounds like usually when that happens there's anxiety tied behind it. That's why they're doing it. So that may be the second part to that solution as well, is some anxiety training, and again, depending on the severity of it, there's things they can take to help with that. So there's a few options for you.
The basic obedience package is 4 lessons. What will be the length of time of training? Like 30 minutes a day, an hour a week? Same question for the advanced package.
So when you do our lesson programs, it's basics, 1 lesson a week for 4 weeks, basic and advanced, 1 lesson a week for 8 weeks. All of our lessons are private. Huge advocate of private lessons. Group lessons for a dog learning are worthless, as we talked about last week. So what we tell everyone, all of our lessons are 1 hour. We tell everyone, in order for your dog to look like all the dogs that you see in our videos, you should be practicing about 35 to 40 minutes a day. That's why there's that week in between lessons, as each lesson builds upon the last, so it gives you a week of practice every day. So that way when you come back for your next lesson, your dog should be really, really good at what they learned the previous week, because you've been practicing 40 minutes a day for the last 7 days. So hopefully that answers your question on the lessons.
Do you offer single at-home classes?
We do. We do offer in-home training. All of our locations offer in-home training as well.
What are your thoughts on, now they're coming in so fast, I can barely read. What are your thoughts on ending a training session with the dog succeeding the last command? Example, my dog can place with low, medium distraction solidly, but with a high distraction, she's 90% successful. So I end the session with something she is 100% solid instead of with something she failed at.
Yeah, I won't let a dog end a session on failure. I always joke with my guys, I'm a big UFC fan. I've trained pretty much almost every top fighter in UFC's dog at this point. I have UFC fighter Michael Johnson out of the Black Zillions. I'm training his dog next month. He's training partners with Rashad, Anthony Johnson, Vitor Belfort, all those guys down there. But I'm a big fan as well. And I say, look at your dog like the last round of a boxing match or a UFC fight. is it's really important to win that last round. Why? Because judges remember the last thing they saw. That's like kind of the general consensus, is if the round ended, the fight ended with me on top of you beating your face in, and that's going to carry a lot of weight even though you may have won the first couple rounds. So I kind of think the same with the dog as well, is if the dog remembers the training session end when he failed, then that's the last thing they remember. So I always end the session on a positive note on them being successful at something. However, I don't know anything about your dog or your training, but you have to push through that and end him on a successful high-level distraction at some point as well. So you can't just keep, doing it, he failed, and then take a step back. You just have to push him through it, do some more reps until he does do it, and then release him on that. And now he jumped the hurdle. So hopefully that helps answer your question.
Would you recommend creating dogs in a part of the house other than your bedroom? Do you think creating separation is important when it comes to training puppies?
Yeah, I've never created a dog in my bedroom ever, nor will I. I'm a big fan of creating them somewhere else in the house, because then they get used to being with you or in your presence all the time, which can create separation anxiety. As I always say, a dog with separation anxiety generally needs more separation. And it's just because they've been with the owner the whole time, everywhere they go. They take them to work with them. They get home from work. Now they go to bed. They're in the room with them. And so, yeah, I'm a big advocate of not creating them in your room, actually.
Hey, Nick. So this is from Timothy Lake, our dog. Hey, Nick, had a great question that was asked of him on his live that he does on Obedience Kings. Is desensitizing and overcoming fears the same thing for dogs? Is
desensitizing, is that the question?
Yep.
Like, yeah, I'm afraid of this, so I'm going to keep doing it?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So the question is if a dog has a fear, is like desensitizing him, essentially making him do it just like you do with people, good for dogs. And yeah, I'm a huge advocate of it. Most of the stuff we do is what I call, like the official terms, like flooding. Is I find something the dog's afraid of, guess what he's going to keep doing over and over and over and over until he's not afraid of it. Oh, he's afraid of loud noises? All right, guess what we're going to do today? We're going to go in the backyard and I'm going to shoot mags upon mags from my AR-15 until he doesn't care anymore. My dog's afraid of, we get dogs who are afraid to go up and down stairs, believe it or not. They'll say, oh, he won't go upstairs, I have to carry him. And I'm like, well, I'm not carrying him. So he's going to get over that pretty quick. So we just go up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down until he's running up and down like he's done it his whole life. The problem is, and it kind of goes back to what I talked to earlier, and it's not the answer that most people want to hear, but it's the right answer, is people like just cuddle and baby their dogs too much, and that's why they create these fears and phobias and all these weird things. I mean, do you think if your dog was out in the wild that he would be afraid to go up a stair to get food? Hell no. So, but when it's created, is the dog shows a little resistance one time as a puppy, and now you just, nurture that resistance. You're like, oh, it's okay, I'll pick you up. Oh, it's okay, I'll lift you in the back of the vehicle, even though you're a 75-pound German Shepherd who can get in the vehicle way easier than I can get in it physically. Is they just don't push their dogs through it at all. They don't make them do it. So, with that said, there's a proper way to do it. Like we talked about when I had my good friend Bob Salamini on a few weeks ago, is what was that movie that just came out and a bunch of like controversy and shit was about it? What was that?
A Dog's Purpose.
A Dog's Purpose, yeah. Everyone in here saw the controversy and shit to do with that. PETA's talking shit about him, even though PETA, I think, kills more animals than any organization in the world, but that's a side note. But there was, so if I saw the dog was afraid of water, I would make them do it as well, but he didn't do it properly. You can't say, oh, my dog's afraid of water, all right, well, let me throw him in and that should fix it. There's a proper way to do it. Maybe get him in water and like a baby pool, so it's only up to his knees, get him comfortable in there, and then get something a little deeper. And now that he's in something deeper and stationary, maybe hold him and start moving through the water with him, making him walk a little, and then you slowly do it. So there's a proper way to do it. But yeah, as I always say, show me something show me something the dog's afraid of, and within 2 hours I'll show you something he's not afraid of anymore. Because that's all we're gonna do is work on that until he's over it. You know, as I always say, dogs aren't allowed to be afraid. So in order to create a highly confident dog where you can take them in Times Square, downtown DC, all these places that we do, down them, and they stay there forever, you have to have the dog desensitized and highly confident, which is what I'm known for and what I do. So to answer your short question long, definitely. If you find something they're afraid of, desensitization and flood them until they don't care anymore.
David wants to know, Tank, when you're done, will I be able to take Lila on the boat for a day on the river with me?
Yeah, you definitely can. We actually did.
Brandon Polinick.
Yeah, Brandon Polinick, who's two-time Bass Master.
Elite Series champion.
Elite Series champion. Anyone who knows anything fishing knows the name. We did his dog recently. Tank did training for him. And you'll see his dog. Obviously, Brandon wanted a dog that could go on a boat with him since he's the top name and champion in the Bassmaster Series. So he wanted a dog to go with him. So you'll see most of his after video is doing all the stuff we do, the downs, the heels, all of that in a boat, off leash, fishing, all of that environment. So yes, we can certainly do that.
Monica wants to know, why does my German Shepherd love my ex so much and get so excited when he comes over and basically ignores her?
Maybe your ex is more fun than you. You know, it's hard to say without knowing. That's why they call it live and uncensored. No, it's hard to say without actually knowing the dynamic you guys had. Like, did your ex spend a lot more time with the dog when you guys were together? Maybe he was always home with the dog, you were always at work. I mean, there's so many variables that can change that. But it also can come down to that as simple as well as, you know, if I'm all like, oh, and I'm always fun and playful and taking him places, the dog is naturally going to be more drawn to me than he is to someone else. And, you know, I say dogs are just like friends. If you say, hey, who wants to go out with Nick tonight? Everyone's going to go with me because I'm fun as shit. But if you have that boring friend, people are like, I got stuff to do today. So again, it's hard to answer. That was just me kind of taking a jab. But it is kind of true. But it's hard to say without knowing your actual dynamic that you guys had with the dog. So it's kind of hard to answer that truthfully without just being funny.
Okay, here's my nominees so far for best question of the night.
All right.
Write
them down because I'm sure we'll forget. Put them in your phone notes.
I'm excited to see your response. Or hear it. Jamie says, both of my German Shepherds completed your board and train. When I'm out working them in the neighborhood or the community, sometimes I get negative looks or comments because they're off leash, even though they're following every command. Any suggestions on how to handle the people?
I don't. I just keep healing. I mean, to be honest, I don't. And, you know, one of my favorite quotes just in business and dog training, just a general rule is, don't worry about what other people think, because most of them don't. So I really don't give a shit what anyone else thinks in the world of dog training or outside of it. So that would be my best advice, is you keep doing you and your dogs and let the haters hate.
Perfect. Sarah wants to know, when is your next book being published?
I don't have one in the works. Hopefully, you know, in the next couple of years. As we said, we just announced our 101st location. It's only been less than 7 years. I'm traveling a lot, so I just got a lot going on right now. So I don't have anything planned in the immediate future, but maybe in the near future.
Asia says, I'm here.
Bob Hayes says, do you use treats when you start a dog on tracking? That's a good question, Bob. I did a live video, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago now, where we talk about treats and stuff. And I always say I let the dog tell me what is the reward. I let the dog decide that. You know, people say, like, what's the best reward for the dog? And I always say whatever the dog decides. So, you know, maybe for a dog it's a tug. Maybe for a dog it's a ball. Maybe for a dog it's treats. Maybe for a dog it's a piece of cheese. So whatever I know most motivates the dog, and the dog says, hey, this is what I care about most, that's what we use as the reward for tracking. some dogs it's a bite. So it just depends.
My Vizslas listens to my commands, but does not listen as much when others, like friends and family, tell him the commands. Any suggestions?
I assume that means we train your dog. I don't know. The question is, dog listens good to me, not so much friends or family. That's just a reinforcer issue. You know, I always say a dog will listen to best whoever enforces the commands the most, just like kids. You know, as I always say, if, you know, my dad was way harder on me and my brother than my mom. So if my dad gave us a command, we did it much quicker and much faster than if my mom did. So dogs are the same way. We get that question all the time as I'll say, hey, how's training going? And they're like, oh, he's almost perfect with me and my wife. He doesn't listen to her much. And I say, well, who does most of the training? Well, I pretty much do it all. I'm like, well, there you go. So, you know, if you have like a 2-3 people household, try to get all of them involved so the dog learns that it's being reinforced and followed through by everyone and not just that one training partner, essentially.
What age do you recommend for starting training with your company?
We do puppy consultation as young as 8-10 weeks, but we start our formal training like that you see in all of our videos, the off leash, the crazy distractions. We start that at 5 months old. Monica says the dog's only lived with me and he's not more fun than me. So if he hasn't lived with you, it could just be because it's a new person. Like my dogs, when Tank comes over, my dogs get super excited and come running over to him, even though they were just chilling, laying down right before he walked in. It's just it's a new person who pets him and plays with him and gives him praise when I'm on my computer and on calls and emails. So that could be it versus him being way more fun, exciting, and amazing than you.
Jenny says, Tank, Sherman is afraid to go up the stairs. Am I shocked? No, he's a big coddled baby, and your mom needs to make him go up the damn steps.
If anyone says their dog won't go up the steps, leave them with me for one day, and if they're not going up and down steps like they've done their whole life, I'll give you $5,000. That's how confident I am.
How can fence fighting be stopped?
Just by working on it with them. You know, any issue a dog has, we just try to work them on that issue, like what I call like their trigger points. Find what's triggering the issue and kind of work with them through it. So, you know, it stops by having control over it. The problem is most of the issues we see in dogs, 99% of them, starts with they have no control over the dog to begin with, meaning the dog doesn't do anything reliably. Meaning if you can't call your dog away from the fence, then that's a problem. So what we do, like we have our reactive dog training program. The first 4 lessons is our basic obedience package, which is to get solid control over him. So he comes, he sits, he downs, he does everything reliably. Now that we have that, we use that solid, reliable obedience to work with them on fence fighting, to work with them on greeting other dogs, to work with them on greeting other people, to work with them on food aggression or territorial aggression or all the other things they have. As I always say, it's hard to fix any issue in a dog that doesn't listen to you, just like a kid.
Devin commented earlier that their 2 pups are coming to us, and from watching and listening tonight, this next question says, well, I failed already before we even started training. Crate in bedroom, dog goes to work, and I baby the shit out of him. Am I fudged? Can you train the owners too?
No, you're not. I mean, again, I'm not like trying to just keep plugging our YouTube channel because most of you in here has already been there. But if you look at our videos, as I say, tell me whatever issue your dog has, and I can pretty much find you 10 videos of dogs who came to us with worse issues than what you said. So it's definitely not. I would just say start getting them on the right path, essentially. I mean, I would be surprised if you maintain that if your dogs didn't start to develop a lot of separation anxiety just because they're always used to being with you. So I would try to fix that, and I would recommend not having crates in the room. Bethany says, is it harder to train an old dog set in his ways? No, it's not. You know, we get that question so much. I have blogs on it. I think I've done every form of talking on this point about, is it harder? But it's a good question because we always get it, so obviously a lot of people want to know it, so I don't mind talking about it. Is it harder to train an older dog? It's irrelevant to me. I've trained 5-month-old dogs, and I've trained younger than 5 months, but I'm just using an example. I've trained 5-month-old dogs, and I've trained 12-year-old dogs, and I've learned it's kind of irrelevant, to be honest, because I think they each present different problems. Like, you have a 5-6-month-old puppy, he's easier distracted. He's like, ooh, what's this? Oh, I've never been in Times Square before. Like, what's all this? Oh, sirens, lights, ooh, people. Like, he's just very overwhelmed. Where an older dog who's been around, seen some things, done some things, he's not as distracted, but he's pretty much had his routine that he's had for 6 years. So I say, just like most of the things in the world of dog training, it's very dog dependent. You can have a 7-month-old dog that's pretty tough, or you can have a 13-year-old dog who's the easiest dog you've had in 6 months. So it's very dog dependent, but the short answer to your question is I think age is irrelevant, to be honest. I think I've said that in every blog I've ever written. And thousands of dogs, I still have that same opinion, so hopefully that helps.
How do you know a dog is 100% ready to be off leash?
I mean, that's kind of tough to explain because a lot of it's just experience based. But just kind of put them in low-level distraction environments and work them. I mean, like I said, it's really hard to answer that because it's just, I know because that's what I do. But I would say if I tried to answer it, it would say, are they reliable with a good amount of distractions? Well, actually, I kind of do even a step further. Is I'll put them with a decent amount of distractions and test them in that. And if they're doing great, like there's dogs, there's people, there's noises, and they're place down, sit, hit, boom, and they're killing it despite all that, then that's a good indication that they're ready to do the same off leash as well. Generally, how a dog is off leash is going to be how they are on a leash as well. Once they're trained, is the general rule of thumb. If he's all over the place on a leash, he's going to be all over the place off a leash. If he's high-level distractions, doing everything amazing on a leash, he's probably going to do it off leash as well.
Let's see. A friend's GSD has food aggression. When the dog is corrected, she will stop eating. My friend has to go out of her way to let the dog know it's okay to eat. The dog will finally eat again, and then the cycle continues.
What do you mean when it's corrected?
Callie, can you clarify what do you mean when it's corrected? She's trying to send her to you guys. Any advice in the meantime? It sounds to me like the dog thinks she's been being corrected for eating versus being aggressive while eating.
Oh, so
it sounds like the dog's eating, resource guarding, gets corrected, and shuts down from eating.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, we would, again, get full control over the dog, so we would kind of... It's hard to say because I don't know what she means by getting corrected. Like, what are they doing? If they're only correcting the dog when it goes to eat or something, then of course they're going to make an association of I eat, I get corrected. So it's kind of hard to answer without knowing.
What level? What's the correction that she's getting?
Like, what's the correction? Like, it's hard to know without a little bit more information, unfortunately. Jenny says, will Joey record his voice saying commands and sell them to us? Backstrom still hears his voice on videos and does whatever he is saying immediately. That is awesome to hear, Jenny. And I'm sure for a low nominal fee of $999, Joe would be happy to record a voice track for you.
Or just move in with you and
yeah, you can take him on, let him move in the basement. TJ, just got the 2-week board and train program for my Corso puppy. You will be happy, TJ. We actually have a good amount of Corso before and after videos on YouTube. We've done, I don't know, a good amount just in the last 12 months alone.
What's the toughest, hardest training issue you have dealt with?
Man, the toughest, hardest training issue. I mean, I don't think I really know. I mean, can you... I mean, it's hard to say because I really don't feel like I have that many tough issues in training.
I mean, Gio's dogs were tough because of the heat.
Yeah, like I did a national starting pitcher Gio Gonzalez's dog, Stitch. He has his own bobblehead and stuff at National Stadium. And he was pretty tough just because it was like July, August, and he had zero cardio. He was living the Washington Nationals starting pitcher superstar life for his whole life, living in a decent house, air conditioned, like you can imagine the whole works, never really going outside but to use the restroom, back in, and that's how he lived. So I had to take this dog who that's his life, is pretty much chilling, getting everything given to him, and work him, as I said earlier, 4 hours a day outside when it's 90 plus. So he was pretty tough just for the cardio conditioning because he would just get worn out so fast. So I had to maximize every session as much as humanly possible and just do a lot of mini sessions, and because there was no way that guy was going an hour at a time. So it'd be like 15 minutes on, 15 minutes off, 15 minutes on. So it was actually a lot harder for me because it took up my day, literally and figuratively, my whole day, because it wasn't like a normal dog where it's like, all right, hour on, all right, he's worn out, 3 hours off, let me emails, calls. It was literally like 15 on, 15 off, 15 on, 15 off. So, and then he would need like a 3-hour power nap in the middle of the day. And so that was probably my toughest recent dog, and had nothing to do with behavior wise. It was just horrible cardio and conditioning, the worst I've still seen to this day. So she says when the dog growls, she takes away the food and then gives it back to her. See, when we work with food aggression, we never do the takeaway because and again, as I always say, but it's my disclaimers, there's always someone that comments, well, that's how I did it at my training, and it's worked wonders for my dog. It's like anything in the dog training or anything in the world, there's always exceptions to the rule. But, you know, if your dog has resource guarding or or food aggression, you kind of are reinforcing their belief by taking their food away from them. It's like, yeah, this is why I guard it. It's because you take it from me. So we never do it. We never do it by taking food away as a correction. So again, it's hard to know without actually seeing it, and that's why I hate giving specific advice because there's so many variables. But you know, if a dog has food aggression issues and as a correction you're taking away their food, it's kind of reinforcing, like, this is why I guard it because you always fucking take it from me. So if I'm in the middle of eating this and Tank comes over and snatches out of my hand, and then he's like, all right, try again. Next time I'm going to hold it a hell of a lot tighter, and as soon as he gets up, I'll probably like slap him. So so maybe that's your issue, is why you're having that. Ashley says, I'm getting my GSD trained, which I mentioned earlier, but I have 3 other dogs who do not have the best obedience. Can that affect my training with the dog who's being trained? So essentially the question is, I have 3 dogs. For one reason or another, I am or I can only get one really well trained. Will the other 2 who are not affect that one? No, it shouldn't matter at all. I kind of touched on that earlier. You'll see in a lot of our videos, we do like what I call the dog gauntlet, where it's like dogs on each side barking and spinning around and going crazy, and then the dog we're training is like off-leash healing through it. You know, the dog that's trained, as long as you're reinforcing and staying firm on what you know they should do and they know they should do, then the other dog's screwing off really shouldn't have an effect either way on it. As I always say, that means you'll have one dog who listens great and 2 that doesn't. So. Let's see. Let me. I'm trying. We're getting a bunch of questions pop up. Mm-hmm. Mike says, one thing I've heard a lot from people is that because their dog is a rescue and had a tough life before they adopted him, they tend to excuse a lot of their dog's bad behaviors. I.e., he growls at men because a man like beat him or did something to him. He guards his food because no one fed him. fed him. I know it's dog dependent, but how fixable are these issues? Do these people need to be stuck excusing their dog's behaviors forever? Is Michael Burns trying to win the off-leash canine training official cot?
Yes, he is.
No. To me, there's no good excuse for a dog acting out or being aggressive at all. Because by excusing their behaviors based off their rough past, you're just going to make them have a lot more rough of a future. That's fucking deep. Because generally what happens if you excuse these behaviors, they're going to progress. So if your dog, say, he has food issues and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to let it slide because I'm sure he didn't get fed that much when he was at the shelter, or the people that, those are only going to get worse. And now you have a kid or your niece comes over and they don't know any better. It's a 3-4-year-old and they walk over and touch him while he's eating and now he nails them. Now he's going to have a really, really rough life because he's going to probably get put down. Or he doesn't like men, so, instead of trying to work on it, we'll just try to keep him away. Well, now he's going to lose all socialization with men and then he's going to bite someone. So generally regardless of the dog's past, to me, there's no justified excuse for letting it continue, essentially. It's same with people. I always say, I say it in videos, I say it on blogs, I say it in books, I say it on ABC, I say it everywhere I go, is, to me, in a lot of ways, dogs just like people. If I say, oh, well, Tank beats his kids because he was beat as a kid, so, I'm not going to say anything, just let it continue. That's definitely not a solution. That's just going to cause him and his family and everyone around him a lot more pain. So, or his parents did drugs, so that's why he's doing heroin, so it's fine. So, past things that happen is never, ever a justifiable excuse to let it continue in the future. The best thing for you and your dog is to get it fixed and addressed, and now you can both move on and have a happier, better, more confident life. So hopefully, Michael, answers your question.
I almost feel like I need a hug after that.
Thank you.
Do you think it's harder... Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? Do you think it's harder to train the owners who are set in their ways than the dogs?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, someone who's babied the shit out of their dog for 5 years, it's generally harder to get them to change their behavior than the dog. It's very easy to get the dog's behavior to change. I mean, I have all of my seminars I do on YouTube that I do throughout the world are 5 days. I'm taking a 4-year-old dog who doesn't know anything, and in 5 days he's off-leash heeling through Times Square, New York, and doing all this cool shit. It's the owner that's generally harder to get them reconditioned.
Malinois seem to be the flavor with dog trainers. Can they be relaxed family dogs as well as good running partners?
Not really. I mean, it's hard to say because now there's a Malinois craze. There's a lot of shitty breeding of Malinois going on out there. But a good general rule of thumb is Malinois don't make good, chill pet dogs. And a lot of people find that out the hard way. They get a Malinois and they find out they're a lot of work, they're a lot of energy, they're very alpha male, they have a lot of drive, they're highly confident. And all those are good things if you know how to harness them and make the most out of them, but they're bad things if you're a highly inexperienced person. So, my general rule on Malinois is if you yourself aren't an amazing trainer and you want to get a Malinois, be rich. That way you can afford a really good trainer. So, and then you should be fine. So either be a good trainer or be rich. Those are generally the ways I think that a good, solid Malinois, you should get one.
Well, that comes from James in Australia, and he's a pretty good trainer, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
Here's a good one, Nick. Jennifer asks, once you approve someone as a location owner, do you do follow-up training or check-in with them? So, in other words, what kind of quality or success measures do you have for those that are training at your locations?
So we have really high success. I mean, we're at 220 plus trainers at this point throughout the world. And anyone who knows me knows I'm pretty savage when it comes to trainers. I get rid of them pretty quick if I think they're not doing what they should be doing, or we get a lot of negative things on them. So I'm pretty quick to pull the trigger because I work my ass off to build what I've built and have you guys trust us and everything. So, but it's very, very rarely have that happen. But they also have ongoing training. Actually, speaking of ongoing training, I'm actually heading to New Orleans the end of this month to do some ongoing training with our New Orleans location here in 3 weeks. So that's a perfect example to your question, is they do a lot of ongoing training, and whether it's refresher training or even new training, like I'm going down there and we're going to do detection. So I'm doing a detection seminar with them. So hopefully those answers your questions that you had.
You know, to touch on that, as a location owner myself, sitting in the room with you, as a whole, we police our own. So we're anything that, if it's possible for it to slide by you, you have so many sets of eyeballs that has your back watching out for that stuff, because it affects us all as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. Tank brings up a good point. We have a lot of amazing trainers in off-leash. I mean, we have former MARSOC, Marine Special Forces canine. I mean, we have Von Lick canine guys. We have, Marine Corps. I mean, we have a lot of really good trainers. So if someone thinks there's a trainer out there who's not doing well, then pretty much everyone. It's kind of like, I would say it's like being in the Marines in boot camp. Is if you get that one shitbag, everyone knows he's the shitbag, and they kind of handle it amongst themselves. So we don't really have that much of an issue, because we're all really good about giving those people the boot for the most part. And another thing that I always want to point out, I've had like Bob on here, and there's a lot of good, not a lot, but there's good trainers outside of off-leash canine training as well. And, every now and then I recommend them to people. They'll say, hey, I'm here, and I'm like, oh, I know this guy in your area, he's really good. So I don't ever just want to plug off-leash canine, even though it's my business and my baby. I mean, there's some solid trainers out there. So if, you are looking for someone in your area and you see we don't have anyone there, feel free to shoot us an email, and I'll see if I can refer someone that is in your area as well. Joey says, how do you fix crazy? Is that a dog question or like a girlfriend question? So clarify on that. Let's see. Chrissy says, we looked at another one and couldn't justify going somewhere else. Well, we are very happy to hear that, Chrissy. We pride ourselves in our training and our results. Ball. Oh, look, my tail. Is that a shadow? I mean, it's hard to say without knowing, Joe, but it looks like you have probably a high drive, maybe working line dog. That's kind of what they sound like my Malinois, and a lot of Shepherds and Dutchies and stuff like that. So again, we just control it through using obedience. I touched on that very quickly earlier, how we incorporate obedience into play. If they have that high crazy ball drive, then I use that to kind of manipulate them into thinking that they're doing obedience for fun because they get to play with the ball. So I would say get them really solid obedience outside, off leash. And the good thing is with off leash is you can wear them out with the ball as well, because you can chuck it 100 plus yards at a time. And then let that ball be the reward. Let's see.
Do you correct an accidental nip during play?
No. The question is, do you correct an accidental nip during play? No, because usually, I mean, if it's usually a high energy dog and that you're working with, generally when that happens, like my Mal, I actually have a video when I was doing detection a while back, and getting ready to throw the ball, and he jumps up and gets my finger and it starts bleeding, and I say that's what I get for being a dumbass. Mm-hmm. So, and we actually kind of mess with each other with that actually. Like when I'm out at Von Lick Kennels, Nick Shaltman, who owns Off Leash Canine Central Florida, we'll have these high drive working dogs out, and I was like, hey Nick, catch, and like throw the ball at him, and all the dogs just take off. So yeah, if it's like a play session and they accidentally get me, and it's my fault, not theirs.
How much time would you recommend with a 4 to 5 month old puppy?
4 to 5 month old puppy. How much would you recommend? Generally, again, it's kind of dog dependent, but shorter training sessions, like maybe 20, 30 minutes at a time. But again, I've met some savage 5-month-old dog, like, hey, come play with me still. Like, I always want to end it where they're still having fun, they're still wanting to do it, and I end the session. So that's kind of the key, is end the sessions where they're still having fun and want to do more. And sometimes that's not always the case, but that's always the goal.
With so many locations trying to hire right now, why don't you touch on, and this is a question, what are we looking for in experience in new hires, and what kind of process do the new trainers go through?
So for the experience in new hires, obviously always experience is welcome. Like I said, we have who I consider some of the best trainers in the world. I just had Jacob Robinson on 3 weeks ago on Facebook Live for you guys, who's now running one of our Tennessee locations, former Marine Special Forces K9, and we have a lot of those style of guys throughout the country. So we definitely look at that and we greatly welcome it, but it's not like dog training experience is not necessary. And what I've personally found is some also of our best trainers are ones that didn't have any previous dog training experience. They're the ones that are best with the dogs just because they learned it right the first time, essentially. Again, going back to being in the Marines, they say like women are generally better shooters in the Marines. It's because, like me, I grew up in Ohio hunting and shooting guns with my dad and had a lot of habits that I learned that it took me a long time to break, where a woman's never shot before, so she just comes in from the best in the world and learns it the right way the first time, just that's all she knows. So I've learned that with trainers as well, as the ones that don't, well, this is the way I've always done it, or all the things, they come in, learn it right from our awesome trainers the first time and take it and run with it. So experience isn't necessarily necessary. However, the main thing I look for, and I always preach to my locations who are hiring, that you'll see commenting below, like Phoenix and Rhode Island and Pensacola, and who else do we have in there?
New Orleans
and Rochester, New York, and all the ones you can see commenting below saying, hey, we're hiring, is I really, really stress to them and press upon them as people with like passion for dogs or animals, people that have a lot of interest in that. I can take someone that loves dogs and thinks they're awesome, and I can teach them to be a great trainer, but I can't take someone who's like, it's a job, and make them a highly passionate, amazing trainer based off of it. So that's the main thing that we look for, someone that truly has a love for dogs, and I can tune that to make them have a love for dogs and be awesome at training them. So hopefully that answers your question. Monica has a good question we get a lot. Is it true or a myth that neutering your dog makes them more calm? Doesn't matter. I've seen some of the most savage French ring dogs, my friend Bob's, who are neutered, my Mao, who's high drive, high energy, neutered. I don't think it really matters that much at all. Do you recommend training at the same time every day? No, mix it up for sure. Mix up the environment, mix up the distractions, mix up the time, just so it becomes kind of life, essentially. If you say, all right, we're only going to train at 3 p.m. every day, and the dog learns, all right, 3 to 4, I got to be on it, and then the rest of the day I can screw off, and who cares? Did you write down your top 2 or 3 favorite questions yet?
I mean, I'm kind of fond of the one Michael sent in. That was a really good question.
It was deep. Timothy says, can you train dogs to scent detection for, is that beignets?
Beignets.
Beignets, the deep fried pastry in Nowlands.
You're going to find out what those are.
I mean, you can teach a dog to scent detection on any scent, essentially. I mean, you can teach them, there's cell phone detection dogs, there's cadaver dogs, there's fruit dogs, there's, I mean...
Cancer,
cancer, diabetic alert dogs, bed bugs. I mean, so if it's a scent, the dog can definitely detect it. The problem that you can run into with some things is, or a lot of things, is the scent is... there's a lot of things with that scent. So I don't know, maybe anything deep fried, the dog would alert on. But, as I always say, the hardest thing in detection is for a dog to find odor that's everywhere. My kind of running joke is it's harder for a dog to smell 1,000 pounds of bleach in a warehouse than it is for him to find or smell a cup of bleach in a warehouse. And, my kind of thing is, how do you smell what's everywhere? If a dog walks in, it's like, holy shit, the scent's everywhere. It's harder to find than if it's in just one isolated area. So sometimes a lot of scent of something, like overwhelming, is much harder than a minute amount of scent. And the same with people. The analogy I use when I'm training other trainers is, if you walked into my house and it smells like cinnamon, as soon as you walk in, I say, okay, find the cinnamon. It's going to be so much harder because the whole house smells like cinnamon than if I say, all right, there's a cinnamon smell somewhere in here. Then it's very easy to identify the room that has that little Scentsy plug-in just by dipping your nose in. So dogs are kind of the same way. Brandon says, can you teach the dogs to prank call White House post standards? Brandon was in the U.S. Secret Service with me, and we were pretty notorious for prank calls on midnight shift. A lot of people heard from Obama in the Secret Service when we were on shift.
Is your refrigerator running? Yes, well, you better catch it.
Brandon, it's Barack Obama.
Go catch what day in the refrigerator. So. Well, it's about 10:30.
Do we have any final questions? We've been hitting it for about 1 hour and 30 minutes now.
Did we get the numbers for last week's question about what's the percent of...
I was gone all last week, so... Brandon. My fiance is a trucker. He was on the road for 6 months and never met my puppy, who was 6 months. He came home and tried to surprise me, just walked in the house. She ended up attacking him. I would say, what's your definition of attacking him? I mean, to me, no dog should ever bite unprovoked, so I would definitely correct it if that's what you mean. Megan, to answer your question, I would say get that puppy under control as well. However, to directly answer your question, I would still make that dog come, but to me, it would drive me crazy not having the other dog interfering with obedience. Jennifer says, so who wins the place board? I'll pull them up again. I don't feel like we can give them to Michael, though.
Yeah, Mike, you gotta buy yours, man.
Yeah, although Michael Burns did have the best question, he is a trainer location, so I'm going to make him buy them. He can't win it he can't beat you guys out. He's a trainer. He knows the best questions to ask. It's kind of cheating. So these are our place boards. We have the small and the large. Super durable, super heavy duty. I don't know, Tank, what was next? What was the next best question? Can you scroll through there? All right, Tank is scrolling through your questions, so stand by, and we're going to try to get you an answer on live. Got Christine Brooke in the house, world-renowned. Let's see. Michael Burns says, I hate you both and now I quit. So now Rhode Island is no longer hiring. Actually, we have 2 spots now. Thank you, Crystal. We love having you.
I mean, if you're asking me for my pick, I would probably have to go with
If he gave it back to me, I'd have to slap the shit out of him.
I would have to go with Lori. It's her dog's birthday. She was pretty blunt about it. She watches every single week, and she shares every single one of your live feeds.
Well, Tank comes 2 hours round trip just to commentate these, so I will leave it up to Tank.
I gotta go with Lori.
Lori, what's her last name?
Hicks.
Tank Mosley says Lori Hicks is our winner. Lori Hicks, congratulations on tuning in. You have been picked by Tank for the Facebook Live Off-Leash Canine Place Cot. So email us at info@offleashcaninetraining.com and we will send it to you probably tomorrow. Lori says, yay, so happy. And Lori, in return, you better send us some pictures and videos of you using it so that way we know you're practicing with your dog. Do a door manners, do some cool shit to show everyone, and we'll post the video so everyone can see what an off-leash canine trained dog looks like who has a place cot at their house. I think that is it, guys. Is that it?
Upcoming seminar you got?
So upcoming seminar, I have UFC fighter Michael Johnson's coming up. And the end of this month, I am going to New Orleans and Louisiana to do some update, new detection training with the trainers out there. So if anyone is in that area, it looks like probably, what was the dates?
The 25th through the 28th.
It looks like the 25th through the 28th. I will be out there. So if you guys want, I'll post on Facebook when I'm out there. If you're in the area, we can get together, have a beer, shoot the shit a little bit, hang out. It's like I said, guys, I travel all throughout the country at this point. If I'm ever in a place, you see me post like, oh, I'm here in Phoenix or wherever, feel free to shoot us a message on Facebook. And if I'm not too tied up, I would love to come out and meet you and have a brew and get some dinner and hang out. So, that is it. Joe says you sell shirts at the online store. We do not have our trainer shirts on there yet. We actually just created the online store on the website this week, so you'll see some stuff up there. And we will have shirts, the trainer shirts up there sooner than later, and they will be added, Joe. So thanks everyone for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. If you could like, share, that would be awesome. Like I said, I do these just for you guys as my way to say thank you for all of your support to all of our locations throughout the country. So I hope you all have a good night, and I will see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Same time, same place. Later, guys.